So I'm going to do a little thing on why we crave sweets when we are mobilized. I know I've made this video before, but I can't find it, so I'm just making another one. Anyways, when we are mobilized or when we're in more of a fight flight situation, with our nervous system has interpreted that there's a level of danger that's either the same as or less than our personal level of capacity. And so our nervous system is like, let's run or let's try fighting, right? We think we can do that. This is different from when we're in freeze, when we're like, the threat is so much higher than our capacity, so we're just going to give up and play dead. When we are in that give up and play dead, we're not going to have an appetite. We're not going to eat because that's the safest thing when you're playing dead is to not bring attention to you. But when we're going to fight or run away, we are going to crave high sugar, high fat, high calorie food. What the a lot of diet culture calls junk food, right? But we're going to reach for those things for a very good reason. We're going to reach for them because it's going to give us a quick burst of energy so that we can fight or we can run. And so, evolutionarily, it's really wise and not any indication of like a poor character or anything like that. It just indicates that you're mobilized. Okay. You are also going to probably want to eat that food fast, and you're probably going to want to stuff it into like as many things as you can pack into your mouth. So, I tend to get this when I am like at a certain place in my uh, cycle, and perimenopause has made this worse. So I'll get really mobilized and I'll want to like jam like 7 donuts in my mouth at once, right? I need it to pack in and be a really full mouth. Or like 4 handfuls of chips that are really crunchy, right? Because I want it to be like really in my mouth and I want the experience because it has to be fast and I have to be ready to fight. So it is nature's way of prepping you to be able to fight because you don't have a lot of time to like luxuriously eat. You just have to jam the calories in so you can get to the fighting or the running. Okay. So, first of all, what I would offer is if you're noticing it, don't try to just stop, right? Because that's like if a car is going 90 miles per hour and you're like, I am just going to throw you into park. Not going to be easy on the engine, right? So if you notice, like, whoa, I am in the middle of eating 7 donuts, right? And I think I'm pretty mobilized. We can take our foot off the brake, okay? Rather than take our foot off the gas, rather than slamming on the brake. We're going to just take our foot off the gas. What are some ways that we can do that? Movement and vocalization. And specifically recognizing that in this situation, just doing some nervous system exercises is not going to eliminate that urge from coming back. Doing some self inquiry is really what's going to give us that. So if you're noticing that it's happening and you don't want it to reoccur immediately, don't just do the nervous system exercises, also follow it up with self inquiry. So the nervous system exercises, we're going to reach for our movement or vocalization. You can do some sighing, some just like funky sounds with your mouth. Singing is great, chanting, humming, movement. We can do some rocking, some stretching, take a gentle walk. You know, the advice that we give to athletes, like, why don't you take a walk when they're like about to get in a fight? That's because it's helpful for the nervous system. Okay. You can also grab yourself some ice, and you can even chew on some ice. That coldness is really helpful for the nervous system. Okay. So we're going to do our nervous system exercises until we find that we're coming sort of back to our baseline. And when we get to our baseline, we're gonna, if time allows, offer some self inquiry right away. My first choice when I'm mobilized is journal speak, which I'll put a link to it in the description, but it's basically like say every angry thing that you can think of into a voice recorder and then delete it, or write or type every angry thing that you can think of. Journal speak has a little bit more nuanced instructions, but that's my version of it. And then I'm going to follow it up when I've like run the well dry on all my anger. And I'm going to be as unspiritual as possible. I wish they would get their head cut off and, be eaten by a million snakes. I don't know, something awful. um, then I'm going to follow that up with something really soothing. So once I've written all my angry things, I personally might follow it up with like a meditation or listening to, a Byron Katie or a Ram Dass podcast or taking myself on another walk or having a cup of tea, doing some art, something like that. And in that way, we're going to resolve whatever it was that was mobilized. Um, and this is going to include, in that self inquiry, like, okay, what do I want to do about this anger? What is this anger asking for? And when we find out what it's asking for, which is usually change, we're going to either be able to, this might not all happen in one day, right? We might take a couple of sessions with our therapist or take a few days of journaling about it, etc. But we're going to see if the change is possible, if we can give ourselves the change or not. When we see that we can, we'll go ahead and start taking the steps to make that change or supporting the parts that are holding us back from making that change. Um, for example, if, for me, if I realize, like, I don't know, I don't like vacuuming out my basement and I want to get a sump pump, then I would start a savings plan so that I could save up to buy a sump pump. Um, and then if it's something that we cannot change, like say another person's behavior, so let's say I want my friend to call me back more regularly. And they don't seem to be doing that. And I'm not in charge of their phone and their body. um, then I'm going to do some radical acceptance and some grief around, hey, I'm really sad that this friend doesn't call me back regularly, but they are not under my control. So I am going to take really good care of myself when I feel that sadness and that pain, and I'm gonna find someone who will call me regularly, even if it's again a therapist or go into a 12-step group to be heard. I'm gonna journal more so that I'm hearing me more, those kind of things. Okay. All right, so that's the basics of why we crave high sugar, high fat, high calorie foods when we're more mobilized, and how we can support ourselves with that. I would say eliminating the food is never going to do it because there's something else going on. So go ahead and eat your donuts while you offer yourself some nervous system exercises and some self inquiry. Okay, lots of love.